Thank you. All right, I'd like to call to order the regular Planning Commission meeting. The time right now is 5:30 and the date is Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. The land that we know as Sequim was once inhabited solely by First Peoples known as the S'Klallam people, represented by 3 tribal governments: Lower Elwha S'Klallam, Jamestown S'Klallam, and Port Gamble S'Klallam. We serve as stewards of the land within the city of Sequim with the same care and consideration the S'Klallam tribes has and continues to provide. This acknowledgement is a respect to the S'Klallam people and their history. The Planning Commission serves as an advisory body to the City Council. The purpose of the Planning Commission is to provide guidance and direction for Sequim's future growth through continued review and improvement to Sequim's comprehensive plan, zoning code, shoreline management, environmental protection, and related land use documents. The Planning Commission will have all of the powers and perform each and all of the duties specified by Chapter 35A.63 RCW as amended and set forth or amended by ordinance. Roll call. Emily, will you please take roll call?
Absolutely. Commissioner Carter.
Present.
Commissioner Kuntz.
Present.
Commissioner Cummings.
Here.
Commissioner Fain.
Present.
Commissioner Hewitt.
Present.
Commissioner Lefebvre.
Okay, thank you. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Approval of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes up for approval. We have the May 21st, 2024 minutes and the June 4th, 2024 minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look over the minutes, and is there any discussions or corrections? Okay, at this time, I'd love a, go ahead.
I will move to approve the minutes of Tuesday, May 21st and Tuesday, June 4th.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Minutes stand approved for May 21st, 2024 and June 4th, 2024. At this time, we're going to move to our public comment session. This is general public comment. I know that on our agenda, we will have 2 different public hearings later on under new business. One is for the agenda item for the capital improvement plan, or CIP, and the other is for the TIP, which is the transportation improvement plan. So if you have any comments for those 2 items, please wait till we open those public hearings. But at this time, if anybody has any other public comment that they would like to submit, this is the time to do so. And I just have a short little paragraph I have to read.
That's for the hearing.
No, I was going to do the one on the agenda. General public comment will be heard at this time. Each person is limited to 3 minutes. For those wishing to speak on the public hearing topics, please hold those comments until that portion of the meeting. At this time, is there anybody that would like to provide public comment on anything other than the CIP or the TIP? No? Okay. And Emily, is there anybody online?
I do have one person online. I'm going to allow you to speak. So if you'd like to make public comment, now's your opportunity, Ronald. If not, just let me know.
Okay, thank you. So if no one would like to provide public comment, I will close the general public comment section of this meeting, and we will move on to general business. And the first item on our general business is the mobile home park review and prep for public hearing. I would like to say our new director, Lindsay, she is online. So welcome, Lindsay. I hear you're packing to get over here.
Yes.
So, do you have a presentation, or would you like to introduce somebody that does have a presentation on this?
I would like to have a discussion about this. I do not necessarily have a presentation or PowerPoint to give tonight to the commission. I do have some discussion points that I'd like to address and talk about the next few meetings.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead.
Okay, so thank you and good evening, Planning Commission. As I have been acquainting myself with the programs and processes that are underway with the City of Sequim, one of those that I have really dug into is the MHP Code Amendment and looking at our options and opportunities under the existing ordinance. So as you're likely aware, there is a current ordinance that expires on August 12th that is a moratorium on the code amendments. Based upon all of the work that you guys have done over the last few meetings, I do believe that Kim with LDC has left me in a really good spot to pick this up and continue it forward for you. I have an idea and a recommendation and had presented it earlier today. I think that the commission will be interested in this. So staff is recommending that we extend the moratorium for a few more months, allowing the Planning Commission to have time to schedule a site visit for the areas that the overlay would be applied to. This would also give us more time to discuss the uses that are found in the current Municipal Code 1862 and the development standards for the overlay if necessary. This could give us time to have a public hearing in advance of the final recommendation that's written to City Council, and would potentially open up the opportunity for a joint meeting with City Council down the road. Now, if we do not process a moratorium extension, we are limited to a public hearing and being ready for a public hearing on July 2nd in order to meet the August 12th deadline of the existing moratorium. And so I wanted to present these ideas to you. I can go into more detail on specific meeting dates and the recommendation on site visits, as well as getting through and finalizing the recommendation and final code for public hearing. But this is also our first time talking about this very large topic that has been on your agenda collectively. So I want to hear from you on your comfort in the work to date and how you would like to continue to see the work carried forward too.
Okay. Do any of the commissioners have any questions or input on this?
Always.
Okay, welcome back.
I really appreciate the comment about process, because that's always, that's one I'm going to bring up about the CIP and the transportation and improvement plan. But in your comment in regard to what we're doing with the overlay, we want to get it exactly right, or as right as we can get it. And I think a few more months isn't going to make or break it in my mind. 2 or 3 months is what I would say. So thank you.
Great.
Okay, Dennis?
Yes, I agree with that process that you set up, Lindsay. My question is, will you have to go through the same process to extend the moratorium with the city council? And for what length of time would you look at for that second moratorium?
So we would have to go through a process with the city council prior to their April 12th or on their April 12th meeting to establish another extension. The process would,
April 12th or,
I'm sorry,
August.
August
Oh.
12th.
okay.
Yeah. August 12th.
I'm
And-
looking forward to 2025 too.
Yeah, that would be, let me see here, where was I? That would be a process that the city attorney and I have discussed and would not be a challenge to process. We would recommend that we do not, I think that we're all in agreement that we don't need the full 6 months for another one, but we do have under state law up to a total of 18 months.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Eileen?
Hi, Lindsay. One of the things that we've talked about over meetings, I had a concern that we really haven't heard from the property owners or the owners of these parks. And I think there's been some outreach to try to connect with them. And I think they're a very important part of this whole discussion. And so maybe we could reach out again to hear their concerns, their opinions, and make this right, because it's important.
Thank you, Eileen. Anyone else? I would like to weigh in a little, and I agree that I think a couple more months would be okay because this is important and we do want to get it right. I also know that we have a community that has really that is affected by this, and I want to make sure that we're very mindful in diligently coming to a resolution, if that makes sense. But I want to get it right. So I would like, if you need another 3 months, I know you've only been on the job for 12 days. So, and I know we are in a good place with the work that Kim had done. So I guess I would just like to say, as long as we're mindfully and diligently working through the process so that it doesn't extend, longer, is my input.
Okay. I can speak more to that, but if any other commissioners would like to speak up, I would hate to interrupt.
Anybody else?
Okay.
Okay.
So my idea is that we prepare July 2nd for our dive into the code recommendations for uses and finalize the complete packet of code that appeared to be, and in discussion with Kim, that was the one item that still needed to be vetted through you guys. I would also recommend that we consider doing a site visit, depending on recognizing it as a holiday week and that we may have commissioners out of town due to that. But I would like to also consider site visits for either July 2nd or July 16th. Staff will work on SEPA processing after we have final direction on our code preparation. And then I'd like to look at a public hearing and written recommendation. We can do a public hearing on July 16th with a recommendation on the 6th, or look at doing both of them on August 6th too. So that's kind of my proposal to keep the momentum moving, to be able to demonstrate that we are committed to continuing this work and doing it right. And that would also align well with council, I believe.
Okay. And so for a site visit, either on the 2nd or the 16th, are you looking to incorporate that in one of our regularly scheduled meetings?
We could do it into one of our regularly scheduled meetings. Let me pull that Excel book up too.
Or do it like at the
Or we-
start or?
Yeah, or
Okay.
we could notice a special meeting and meet a little bit earlier to go do that in advance of 5:30 too.
Okay. And do you have an idea of where you would like to do that?
I would like to be able to go around town where we have the overlays And so I was considering mapping that out. I mean, obviously we have the GIS map, which was also provided in your materials tonight, just for some background for you. But I would like to go to the sites and the properties that would be directly impacted by the overlay. Now, if we would not deep dive into each and every site, but walk around the ones that we can and make our observations and have conversations about the impacts and the unknown impacts.
Okay. How does the commission feel about that? If that is something that comes to fruition, does anybody have any restrictions on those days or times? You know, it might be reasonable to give ourselves enough time that we can, you know, maybe we meet earlier than 5:30. To be able to give ourselves times to really to visit multiple properties and ask questions if we need to. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's great. You know, if you just let us know.
Okay.
There's none of the commissioners are vocalizing any kind of time restrictions on either one of those days.
Okay. We will work on getting a schedule out so that we can get that properly noticed as well.
Okay. Thank you.
I do want to note, one of the things that I had requested Emily send you is the existing code for Sequim Municipal Code uses under the manufactured mobile home park. So if you have time to review that in advance of our next meeting, where it will be in the agenda and largely part of the discussion, you have been provided that in advance.
Okay. Thank you. I think Commissioner Carter had something he wanted to say.
So if I understand correctly, we're going to get the existing code that relates to this, and then on July 2nd, we'll look at the code recommendations, compare the two, and then we can have a site visit to follow up on those two items. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And you're looking at allowed uses, which is that's the language that you're really looking to solidify at this point, correct? That's, you know, like sheds and storage units and stuff like that, right?
Correct. We want to make sure that the allowed uses are accurate and will maintain, as well as I need to, and I believe, have you guys discussed the development standards and retaining those that are in 1862B?
I don't believe so. Mm-mm.
That's what I was thinking. I do believe that B is applicable too. We want to look through those and make sure that they are clean and up to date.
Okay. Anything else? No? Okay. So if we continue the work study for, you know, moving forward, do you need this motion to continue it for July 2nd and direct staff to return with final recommendation?
No, I do not.
Okay, so
Yep.
Okay.
Based on the conversations that I was able to have today and a little more guidance on the extension, we do not need that motion.
Okay,
We can move
great.
ahead.
Do you have anything for us?
I can wait till director's report for you.
Okay, thank
you.
you. Okay, do any of the commissioners have anything else they'd like to add on this subject before we move on to new business? Nope. Okay, thanks. We're looking forward to a field trip. Oh, but that's what it is. I haven't been on one for a while, so I am kind of excited. Okay, thank you. All right, so we are moving on to new business. The first is a public hearing for the CIP. before we open the public hearing, the clerk will read the comment instructions. Oh, sorry, I'll wait for you to get ready, Emily.
Okay, I'm ready. Okay, soon the chair will open the public hearing and take comments from people attending virtually and in person. If you are in person and would like to provide public comment, please sign in on the public hearing sign-in sheet. They're right on the table. If you are attending virtually via Zoom and wish to provide public comment, press the raise your hand icon, or if you are on the phone, press *9 when the chair asks for comments. Then, when the last 4 digits of your phone number are called out at the appropriate time, unmute your audio by dialing *6 and then state your name and city or county of residence. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Please avoid comments not related to the subject of the hearing. Participants will be disconnected after speaking. Again, please raise your hand or press *9 when the chair calls for public comments.
Okay, thank you. So the first hearing, the subject of this public hearing is the CIP. The public hearing is now open. Does the DCD director or staff have testimony to present? No? Nick?
There we go. Very brief information to provide, mainly for anyone in the public that wishes to have any additional information. And also, since we have some commissioners that were not here, and I promise this time brief, so it will be brief. Emily, if you can bring up the... So we made some changes visually to how the PowerPoint is presented to really reinforce what was described in my previous presentation about the importance of seeking and planning for funding, whether it's grants or loans, and how that impacts the CIP process in and of itself. So those are those changes I would like to go through with you and just give a brief 2-year outlook on the CIP and go over what those totals look like as we work through our PowerPoint here.
You did a really good job. It was very thorough.
So as
Because the last meeting, we just kind of met briefly. So there wasn't anything on the agenda. It was Lindsay's like first day on the job. We can turn around if we need to, Emily. That's okay.
So we'll just, so as you're familiar with, as far as the last presentation goes, the CIP is a prioritization or composition and prioritization of all of our master plans that we have. As we go through the slideshow, you'll notice the big changes visually. The numbers will be bolded, numbers will be italicized and unbolded, and numbers will be italicized and red. So the indication here is the bolded projects indicate full funding and that we can move forward going to public bid. Italicized projects in their amounts and totals illustrate unsecured and unfunded projects. So we either do not have a funding source identified, or we do not have an entity that provides that source identified. We just have a budget item. Items that are italicized and red indicate that we have identified a body that provides funding for that project, and we have an application in, so the project is unfunded and unsecured or semi-secured at this time. And the takeaway from how these changes are presented is to show exactly, again, what that planning looks like and what funding is available when we're talking about the projects moving forward and the involvement of the financial applications and those processes. So starting off with the multiple division projects, very briefly, again, takeaway is the West Sequim project is fully funded. It'd be slide 5 there if we can click on there we go. So the very first top project there, West Sequim is fully funded for the amount provided. The previous CIP had that extending into 27 and 28. We were able to shorten that timeline and sew up funding for that project. So we are able to move forward after we do some financial planning with our Sue Hagner, our finance director. And again, in the short years, we have our ADA transition plans. Our current transition plan for right-of-way is complete. We have implemented that into our CIP planning. The portion that we will be completing in 25 is for facilities and parks. So this is key moving forward for funding applications and will be key in how they're scored and how they're reviewed. Moving on to capital facilities, you'll notice the bolded projects in 25, 26, Gearhart Park and citywide security will be, indicates fully funded. But the top project there, City Shop, all out years and current years except 2025 indicate unfunded. So that is our top priority when searching for funding. We've gone through 2 legislative sessions. We've gone through a USDA application. We've gone through a FEMA application. So we're really exhausting efforts to fund the project moving forward into the out years. Jumping on into the parks, you can see in the nearer years, 25, 26, we've identified funding, but have not secured that funding for Centennial Park construction and the playground equipment for Margaret Kerner, Carrie Blake, and Doc Standard. And the purchase for that equipment is in the order listed for that project there, PRK-054NC. However, we do have the funding for replacements of bridges at Carrie Blake Park, which we are currently pursuing right now and will extend into the 25 year. Yep.
In the out years in the 2029 and 2030, those are not in red. Is there a difference between those years? And
so the red ones indicate that the funding has been applied for, but it is unsecured at this point. So it is under review. The black indicates both unfunded and unsecured. So we don't have the funding for it, and we're not quite sure where we're going to get the money for it at the same time. Yep. Jumping to sewer here, you can see the first 2 projects, 2025, citywide sewer plan update. We are currently in the process of updating that now and coordinating that with the comp plan. Fully funded through 25, and the replacement of manholes on Washington Harbor Loop. That is a new project that we've added that is fully funded, and it was reprioritized based on funding because we have 2 wholesale accounts that contribute to, actually, I believe 3 wholesale accounts that attribute to that stretch of manholes right there on Washington Harbor Loop, being the state park, the casino, and the Bayview Motel, Sequim Bay Motel. So they will help with cost recovery on that project. And that was also a project driven by our maintenance crews. They came in, said we're having problems with I&I. So that project is fully funded. And another addition to this is a growth-based project, the biosolids capacity and process upgrades that and the 2 projects that follow that, as indicated, are unfunded and unsecured. But those are projects that would allow the WRF and the trunk line to the WRF to be upsized and upgraded in anticipation of growth in the area. Moving on to stormwater, our fully funded project for the North Brown Road is obviously a drainage improvement. It will only be drainage, so just putting in catch basins and structures, fully funded. We should be able to go out to bid for that, and it will continue on into next year. With the second project there, this is the only one you'll see that is both bold and red. I didn't have the opportunity to turn it to bold black because the FEMA funding was dependent on the land purchase that the county has now closed on for the off-channel reservoir. So that funding can now be taken advantage of. So that one can be bumped to both funded and secured, which is great news.
Hey, Nick,
Oh, yes.
Commissioner Frayne had something he wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Yes. Regarding biosolids, what's done in the end with the City of Sequim's biosolids?
What's done right now, or
Yes, or
so
in the
the
future?
the proposed projects that we have for that are on the CIP would allow for distribution publicly. So we could essentially sell the biosolids from the WRF, the water reclamation facility, to homeowners, farmers. What they do with it right now, I'm not quite sure. I do believe there's kind of some disposal methods that do involve local farming and things like that. But this would put us at a not only capacity but processing to be more consistent for. And I don't really like saying commercial because it's not a money-making thing. It just allows the biosolids that we do create to be better distributed amongst citizens and not so much, big farms and things like that.
Is there a chemical analysis for chemicals or heavy metals or whatever? I've heard like when the city of San Francisco was selling its biosolids, if inadvertently an organic farm spread them all over their land, they would lose their certification and it can never go back, or that sort of thing. How do we kind of ensure the safety of our soil for the future without getting contaminated by or PFASs or you name it?
No, understandable. We're starting to dive a little bit out of my wheelhouse. What I can comment on is that there are certain classes of biosolids that do go through rigorous testing and I guess you could say refinement or purification to make sure that materials like that are removed, like heavy metals, oils, things like that. PFAS, I'm just learning about, so I can't comment on that. But as far as the different classes and what they entail and how they're processed, that would be a question I can explore with our utilities manager, who used to be our WRF operator or chief operator, and I can get some details on that.
Yeah, and then on how that ends up or what you find, perhaps there would be a warning or a disclaimer that would go with whoever receives it, so they're aware if there's any issues. Okay.
Yep. The Department of Ecology and Department of Health, as far as my level of understanding, is pretty rigorous with what the requirements are. And
okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening, Commissioners. For the record, Paul Busich, Public Works Engineering Director. Excuse me, no engineering is the old title, Public Works Director. I just want to clarify that the application of biosolids is heavily regulated by the Department of Ecology. So there is redundant testing at the plant. It's tested before it gets sent out. The farmer who we have a long-term contract with applies it on his land for ag purposes. There's a duration between when it's applied and when animals are allowed back on it to allow it to settle in. And then there's testing. I can't remember if it's annually or how frequently it is, but the soils out there where it's applied are in fact tested. I will say that PFAS is more of a drinking water issue than it is a wastewater issue. because what happens with PFAS is it migrates into the groundwater table. And I've talked to our water ops folks, and we don't have that problem here in Sequim as of yet. So that's good news. It's easily remedied if you do get it into your water supply, but it's not inexpensive, but it's basically charcoal filtration. So I would like to just allay any concerns you have about the use of biosolids. And as Nick was indicating, the plan is to generate a commercially viable product. And it's not to make money, but it's to help do cost recovery that will go back into the WRF facility for additional improvements. I hope that answers your questions.
Oh, yes. Is that ever kind of turned into a tea and put through irrigation sprinklers and dispersed through the air that way?
No, not for the product that we produce. I know farmers will do that with cattle waste. They put it into big ponds and they basically liquefy it, and the solids will fall out, and then they'll use that for spraying on their fields. I have been around that, and it's not very pleasant for those who live in close proximity to it.
Downwind. Yeah.
But the biosolids that are produced by a wastewater treatment plant are basically processed, and then they're dried to a certain consistency. What we produce right now is still a pretty wet consistency. The goal is to dry it out so you get to the point where, similar to other large organizations that, and I have actually went and bought this and put it in my own gardens in my yard where I live out in the Puget Sound region. It is, it's a very dry product. It has a distinct odor that goes away after a couple of days. And I think that's where we're looking to go with our biosolids, to increase our marketability, to increase our opportunity to, I hate to use the word dispose or get rid of, but basically to use it to disperse it back into the community as a viable product.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. The second to last here is streets. The takeaway that I'd like you to see here is when compared to other departments or divisions, you will see a lot more red and a lot more bold. And that is because of where Public Works has shifted the priority in creating more things like local road safety programs, a safety action program, and pursuing funding sources like safe routes to schools, safe streets for all, and complete streets, which are becoming more prevalent and more competitive. And we're working hard to pursue these funding sources based on feedback from both the public and city council, with concern about pedestrian safety, the lighted intersections that we've just installed new cameras and equipment on, and of course with the new ADA transition plan that we've just implemented. So the prioritization and the planning for that funding, I wanted to try to make as evident as possible in this streets portion here, and specifically in the 25-26 near years for the planning. And then lastly here, jumping to water, in the near years, that is mainly wrapping up projects that we currently have going on now. So we have the automatic meter reading that is currently undergoing and is fully funded, and the Silverhorn Deep Well, which again is fully funded. And we have actually just completed our capacity testing or aquifer monitoring for that. So we should be getting details on that to move on to our phase 2 of further developing the well and connecting that well to the existing infrastructure in the 25-26 years. You can see there in 26, we have an unfunded, unsecured project of a booster station on Reservoir Road. So this project went through the I don't want to say reprioritization process, but because it didn't go through the matrix it already had been through, but based on available financing and the completion of the well, we thought it would be beneficial and prudent to utilize that new well that we just completed as soon as possible by putting in a booster station at Reservoir Road that then opens up the southwest portion of the city that currently doesn't have any water service or complete water service because it's a mismatch between city and PUD. So in the water portion, we've identified funding that we're going to be pursuing. We have good feelings about getting that funding, and the funding we are pursuing would be for the full amount. And so that's why it's identified as italics red there. And then moving down to the annual projects, these are maintenance projects that we would like to coordinate with our crews in the streets, sewer, water issues that, and you can see that I believe they might not be bolded, but they are fully funded. They are city funded. So this is an attempt to be able to continuously provide small scale projects that make our maintenance crews guys' lives easier, as well as be able to eliminate some capital problems that we run into on the smaller scale. And at the very bottom there, you can see the total. So we have a projected 24.3 million in 2025 and a projected 25.7 million in 2026. So just a semi-brief, I guess, at this point, run through for you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Are there any questions from the commission to staff? Yes, Commissioner Carter.
Thanks, Nick. As always, man, good job on that stuff. Really nice.
Appreciate it.
I have a couple of questions. I'll start with the softball one for you.
Okay.
The splash pad
Yes, sir.
that you listed there, has a location been identified for that, or is that just the general concept one right now?
So the splash pad was placed on or bumped up on the CIP with the understanding that the prioritization of new park equipment, and then of course, as I'm sure you read in the paper, the acquisition of the new park has come about. So I don't want to say it's a placeholder, because we do want to prioritize at least seeking funding for that. And that's why it was moved, is so we can say to different grant organizations, this is a planned item. It is in the outer years. You see it's in the 27, 28, so kind of in the middle, to be able to say it's planned in the outer years, but if you just so happen to get your money, we could bump that and be prepared to move forward.
That helps, because I remember maybe a couple years ago, a consultant suggested a splash pad in Pioneer Park, and it was like, oh, you must be an out-of-town consultant.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting. So maybe you could just give me I missed the last meeting, so I apologize if you went over this in detail, and you don't have to go over in detail. Just give me the overview. I looked at the city shop upgrade expansion and went, that's quite a load of money for a shop expansion. It must be something much larger than just a shop. Okay, what's involved in that?
So the total price tag you see there is the wish list for the full development of the city shop as a compound. So it currently spans three parcels. Two of them are larger. I believe it's 3 parcels, but it's the ultimate plan to have all the structures, all the facilities, all the covered parking is the 35 million.
Okay.
Since we are having difficulty finding funding for the structures, what we do have funding for currently is all the utility work. So that's what we'll be pursuing this year and next year. Hence the, hope that's not bolded. So my apologies on that. But it is secured, it is funded. And so we will be moving forward on the utilities. So the spreading out of those funds isn't throughout the whole 5-6 years of the CIP, is our first shot at parsing down and rescoping and doing a deeper dive on how can we take this large compound plan, the City of Sequim shop compound plan, and put it into more palatable bites.
Okay.
And so along with the financial planning of it, we will be looking at the scoping of the individual buildings, reprioritizing those individual buildings. How do we want to move forward with a new building or a remodel or a fuel station or covered storage? Does it need to be the size that it's shown on the master plan? Things like that.
And is this the shop off of Sequim Dungeness? Or is there another shop location?
It's off of Hemlock, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
right as you come off the highway on Sequim Ave, it's the first left turn there by Red Dog Coffee. I believe that's Hemlock.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Nick,
Commissioner
first of
Lefevre.
all, nice job. Very difficult approach to a very detailed plan. My question is regarding the streets.
Yeah.
The number one item there is the transportation master plan / impact fee update.
Yes, sir.
Is that to do the entire transportation plan in concert with our comp plan update, the transportation element, or is that just to look at the impact fee portion of the transportation plan?
It's both.
Okay.
So the transportation master plan is the major contributing transportation element, and please, Lindsay, step in if I put my foot in my mouth here, of the transportation element for the comp plan. So it makes sense to coordinate them because obviously future land use will drive how transportation is planned for. The impact fee update is based then off of the projects presented in the transportation master plan. So we have this facilities plan or this improvement plan that's specifically outlined in the transportation master plan. So much like how for the general sewer plan or the water system plan, you would have some sort of rate review for your user fees, the impact fees will be reviewed and updated based on the proposed improvements that are outlined based on the future land use in the comp plan.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Do any of the commissioners have any more questions or comments? Yes.
I actually have one last comment because just being transparent, I'm going to have to abstain because I missed the first meeting. But as part of the agenda item cover sheet and report, and this is why I have to abstain because this is a heavy lift. For me, it's a heavy lift. The Planning Commission performs its conformity review of each annual update to ensure that all capital projects related to growth and new development support urban growth framework and strategy and other growth-related goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. That's a heavy lift, and I'm pretty good at the comprehensive plan. And I'm like looking at that going, I can't do that in 3 days because I just looked on Friday to today. So I'm glad you started 3 weeks ago or whatever it was. And next year I'll be able to vote. So my abstention is not a reflection of the good work you're doing.
Well, I appreciate that, Jeff. And I will say I was a little bummed to not be front and center for your usual barrage of questions there. So I'll get you next year. How about that?
I'll save it for next year.
I'll accept a rain check.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. So, all right. We will now move to public comment. This is a public hearing. All audience members wishing to comment will be allotted 3 minutes to speak. When it is your time to speak, please give your name, address, and whether you reside within the city limits of Sequim. Please avoid repetitious comments, personal attacks, or comments not related to the subject before the commission. Do we have any members of the public that wish to speak? Okay, and Emily, is there anyone online that wishes to provide comment?
There is somebody online, Jenny Reese. Looks like if you would like to speak to this, I will allow you to talk. If not, that's fine too. Just let me know.
Okay. I will now close public comment portion of the hearing. Is there any commission discussion on this subject? No? Okay. The public hearing is now closed and we will move on to commission action. And are we ready for a motion is on my list here, my bullet points. And if we choose to, we would move to approve the conformity of the proposed 2025 to 2030 CIP to the comprehensive plan and recommend adoption by the city council. So we would be moving it to the city council tonight if anybody doesn't have anything further on this. Okay, would anybody like to make a motion?
Sure.
Okay,
I move to approve conformity of the proposed 2025 to 2030 capital improvement plan to the comprehensive plan and recommend adoption by the city council.
okay. Second, Commissioner Cummings. And we'll take a vote now. So do you want to do a roll call vote on this since it's a public hearing?
Okay, Commissioner Carter,
Abstain.
Commissioner Kuntz,
Yes.
Commissioner Cummings,
Yes.
Commissioner Fain,
Yes.
Commissioner Hewitt, Commissioner LaFever. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now we are moving on, if I can figure out how to. So we're moving on to our next item on our agenda, which is the conformity review of the proposed 6-year TIP or transportation improvement plan. And this is a public hearing. Before we open the public hearing, the clerk will read the comment instructions.
Soon the chair will open the public hearing and take comments from people attending virtually and in person. If you are in person and would like to provide public comment, please sign in on the public hearing sign-in sheet. If you are attending virtually via Zoom and wish to provide public comment, press the raise your hand icon, or if you are on the phone, press *9 when the chair asks for comments. Then when the last 4 digits of your phone number are called out at the appropriate time, unmute your audio by dialing *6, then state your name and city or county of residence. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Please avoid comments not related to the subject of the hearing. Participants will be disconnected after speaking. Again, please raise your hand or press *9 when the chair calls for public comments.
Thank you, Emily. The subject of this public hearing is the 6-year transportation improvement plan. The public hearing is now open. Does the director or staff have any testimony to present? Oh, hi, Nick.
Well, hello again. For purposes of the record, Nick Dostey, city engineer. Again, for the discourse with the public and for commissioners that were not at the last meeting, the Transportation Improvement Program is a separate but linked document to the Capital Improvement Program, obviously just being transportation based. So in the near years, 25, 26, and in the outer years, all the way to 2030, the prioritization of the projects is similar. However, the TIP provides all of the transportation projects that the city has on our list, so you can get a full idea of what the plan and scope of those projects are. Whereas in the CIP, we only present the projects extending to the out year of 2030 or next year, 2031, and so on. So just a couple things I'd like to highlight that I didn't want to bog down the CIP project with are projects number 1 and number 2. These are two they're not brand new projects, but brand new ways of classifying projects. Previously, our pavement preservation program did not differentiate between collectors, arterials, and local roads. After talking with our maintenance crew, our streets crew, the question repeatedly came about, well, what about our neighborhood roads? Those are falling apart. Our local streets are falling apart. Why are we only focusing on the collectors and arterials? So in response to that, and to provide some consistency, I put together a small program that differentiates arterials and collectors as one project number and the citywide pavement preservation local as a different project number. And you'll see both of those are listed on the annual project list at the last slide of the CIP. The difference on those two projects, while they're both pavement preservation, the local streets, there's a desire to have them be city funded, smaller scale, so they can be more consistent. The idea of doing small projects every year, with the collectors arterials being grant funded. So that way it doesn't impact the city budget. And then with the two line items, we can track the history of those projects better instead of mixing the two with one line item. So I'd like to highlight that. The other thing I would like to highlight is on the last page, project number 45, Johnson Creek Crossing Repair. This was previously a public works project, a multi-divisional project. In the previous CIP and or TIP, it was connected with the diversion or deviation of the sewer line onto the trestle bridge that the ODT resides on. After diving deeper and reviewing some more thorough bridge inspection reports, the decision was made to approach WashDOT on hanging the sewer line from the new state bridge instead of the trestle bridge. So instead of being a multi-division project, that now is a transportation, quote unquote, project where we will just be updating and renovating the trestle bridge. We actually have that project fully funded for design through what's known as the RAISE grant. And there's two other transportation projects on here that I will, number 23, the Keeler Road Shared Use Path, and then also the East Fur project that is projects number 4 and 5. So those are fully funded for design through the RAISE grant. There's I guess you could say a coalition of jurisdictions, both city and county, and it's associated with the Olympic Discovery Trail that will have a joint agreement with the state to access that grant funding. So we're really excited about that program. So just kind of wanted to highlight some items on here that are transportation focused to really highlight the efforts that the admin and finance team in Public Works are doing, resource analysts that are doing to dive into different pools of funding that are available.
Okay, thank you. Does the commission have any questions for staff? Nick? No? Are you sure?
Mhm.
Jeff?
Yes, I'm sure. Thank
Okay.
you. Once again, Nick, thanks a lot. Good work.
Thank you.
Good work. I have two questions. I'll start with the softball one. So last year we talked about complete streets. That's kind of I don't want to say new, but it's new. Just describe what that is to me briefly, because my understanding is it's bike friendly, pedestrian friendly, car friendly, and does that include parking friendly streets?
So you hit the nail on the head there. So it focuses on the multimodal aspect of a corridor, and that includes, not just focus on vehicles, but you have the sidewalks, You have the bike lanes, you have the ADA accessibility, so traffic calming, all of those measures. So specifically for Sequim, what we are looking at is the Prairie Street corridor and being able to split the traffic load, the ADT, between Washington and the complete streets developed Prairie, specifically trying to promote east-west traffic along Prairie coming from the highway and the south side of the city, southern portion of the city limits. So in essence, right, Washington North would use Washington, Washington South would use Prairie. So not only are we are we diverting traffic to lessen that load, but it also promotes an additional pedestrian corridor. Now, whether or not that includes street parking, there's different designs and levels of the complete streets that you can work through as far as those standard cross sections and what that looks like. And so, we're in the process of looking into that again. My understanding is that this was pursued 3 or 4 years ago, prior to me being here, and the timing wasn't well. And so with the pursuing of our local road safety plan, our safety action plan, and our ADA transition plan, we're reopening this book and re-exploring what kind of opportunities we have, and specifically opportunities for fully funded portions. We realize that doing it all in one go is probably not an option. So much like the city shop, right, we have this dream wish list of what this corridor final product would look like. How do we piece that out now?
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah.
Second question is, I really like how you split off the pavement preservation and pavement rehab in one or two. Local needs a lot of work for sure. But my question, I think it's just a follow-up on the last couple of years, is number 2, pavement rehab for the local streets. Of course, that's assuming there is pavement in those neighborhoods, which many of the neighborhoods still don't have sidewalks. So where, and I know this is a really expensive deal to have sidewalks put in, but where in the dream are sidewalks, especially around these downtown neighborhoods here, where are they at in the plan?
So to make a clarification comment, the pavement preservation is not calling out sidewalks. It's calling out the travel lanes. So it's a replacement of asphalt.
Okay.
So to answer the question, to my knowledge, we don't have any gravel roads in city limits. So the opportunity, I guess, if you plan properly to replace all the local streets is there, because they are all paved. We're just talking about now, when you replace it, how long does that pavement condition index last in that 70 to 100 range before you might want to consider other alternatives.
I guess I didn't ask that correctly. I'm talking about sidewalks.
So, yes. If the commission is willing, I can go over that because it is an item in the CIP. I realize we're a little off topic here, but.
Oh, okay. I did see pedestrian improvement in the CIP. Is that where it sits? Not in pedestrian traffic?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
My mistake.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Lindsay, did you have something that you wanted to add?
No, I just wanted to reiterate that when we do go through the transportation element, we will be able to discuss policies that are a little bit at the higher level than project level in the 6-year TIP.
Okay, thank you. All right. Yes, Alex.
Hi, item 23, the Keeler Road shared use path from West Quimby Road to the ODT. That's fabulous. So instead of the little farm road that connects Cedar Ridge to West Quimby Road, I guess there will be a shared use path on one side of that between those two places, so that cyclists won't be at the mercy of the traffic from Cedar Ridge and Mariners Outlook on Keeler Road.
Yeah, so I might have called out the incorrect no, that's so that
Number 23.
yeah, number 23. So the along the Keeler corridor, and I might have misunderstood your question or your comment, but the idea is, and this is again a RAISE grant project, is to provide a bike path or a bike lane along Keeler Road that would connect ODT, which is where the cul-de-sac is, to
Yes.
to West Quimby as an alternate to the ODT, but also to allow any sort of pedestrian or bike access to, say, go from West Quimby down there to the ODT or vice versa. It's just it provides connectivity trail wise and multimodal wise. That does play into another project, the West Quimby pedestrian path from Washington to Whitefeather.
Right.
So the reason this project was prioritized in 2026 is as a relief for the need while that larger project is being pursued in the outer years.
Great. And item 25, East Washington bike lanes between Sequim Avenue and Rhodopher Road. That's is that just going to be a bike lane painted on Washington Street? And then how do you handle that intersection where West Quimby Road connects with East Washington before you get to Rhodopher Road?
Mm-hmm. So to answer the first question, it would be delineating, channelizing bike lanes is the idea behind that project. And from there, specifically the intersection between West Quimby and Washington, that is a tricky intersection. And so how to best handle that is what we'll be diving into either internally or with the help of a consultant, because that is one of the intersections, both in the safety action plan and local road safety plan, I believe, indicated as need for improvement. With how close that intersection is to Brown Road, there might be cause for rescoping because the Brown Road is also intersection with Brown and East Washington is also identified as a problem intersection. So both have non-perpendicular approaches and have crash history, both recent and in the past 5 years. So we will be diving into that as we better understand the applications for these safe routes to school, safe streets for alls, and ADA transition plan, how to improve those intersections.
Oh, yeah, yes, and maybe Blake in addition to Brown too.
Yeah,
coming in.
Yeah, the Eastern Washington connectors are on our radar, and so given the amount of effort we're putting into our existing lighted intersections, that's going to be our priorities to get those taken care of and where they need to be, both ADA and ADT traffic wise, to get those squared away. And then moving to the eastern portion there is the next step.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more comments from the commission or questions for Nick? Okay. We will now open public comment. This is a public hearing. All audience members wishing to make comment will be allotted 3 minutes to speak. When it is your time to speak, please give your name, address, and whether you reside within the city limits of Sequim. Please avoid repetitious comments, personal attacks, or comments not related to the subject before the commission. Do we have any members of the public that would like to speak? Okay, we have one. Doug, would you like to come up? And if you haven't signed the sheet, sign the sheet. Okay.
I just thought of this when he was talking. You're talking about the sewer lines that are attached to the bridges. And it makes me go, what if we have a Cascadia event? My understanding is that we'll lose pretty much every bridge in the area. And I believe there's a huge sewer line across the dungeon that's attached to that bridge. And since the rivers may be our only source of water, is there any kind of an earthquake valve to prevent the effluent from pouring into the river and poisoning it where nobody can use it? So I just was thinking about that. I didn't know if anybody have an answer to that. I was just kind of curious. And of course, the people say, when I was working with the police department, well, we have our own private well. It's also my understanding that the water table will be polluted pretty badly from all the fractured sewer lines and stuff. So the only water we may have will be surface water. And if we're pouring effluent into it from all the bridges that are down, is there something we can do about that? I have a water purifier in my house. It will purify everything. So I'm fine. Got a generator too. Food and water, but I ain't telling you where I live. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Is there anybody else that would like to provide public comment? And Emily, is there anybody in the room? I'm sorry, online.
No, there's no one online that wants to provide comment.
Okay. At this time, I will close the public comment portion of this hearing. Thank you, Doug, for providing public comment. Is there any further commission discussion? No? Okay. So are we ready for a motion? So this motion, should we choose to send it to the city council, will be pretty close to what we had before, which is if the commission so chooses to, one of the commissioners to move to approve the conformity of the proposed 2024 to 2029 TIP to the comprehensive plan and recommend adoption by city council. Do we have a motion?
Can I just say
Yes.
just what you said?
Yes.
Or would you like me to read it again?
No, you can say I move as read.
Okay. I move as read.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. And Emily, will you take a roll call on this vote?
All right, Commissioner Carter,
Abstain.
Commissioner Coons,
Yes.
Commissioner Cummings,
Yes.
Commissioner Fain,
Yes.
Commissioner Hewitt, Commissioner LaFever.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nick, for all of your hard work on this, these
Thank
two
you.
items.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just as a closing statement, and as much as I appreciate the accolades, the effort to coordinate this annually really is a team effort, both on the engineering and on the analyst side of things. So I cannot take all the credit. There's a lot of work, especially this year financially, that Amy Doherty did in coordination with Sarah and Sue in putting this together. So whereas last year was the priority matrix, that was a pretty heavy lift on the engineering and planning side of things. The funding aspect of our review was very in depth given the scale of projects that we have going on right now. So I would very much like to give the majority of the credit to them, just on the record. So, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, please pass our sentiments along. And, you know, thinking back to the priority maintenance, the priority matrix from last year, it really made this very easy to understand and comprehend and kind of look at it. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, we're moving on to director's report. Does our new director have anything she would like to share with us?
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple quick things I wanted to highlight. I did send, I had requested, and I believe Emily sent it already. You should have received an email right before the meeting. There is an opportunity to attend a live Zoom on the Washington State Department of Commerce training for what they call their short course in Washington planning. That is on Tuesday, June 25th from 1 to 4 p.m. But in addition to that particular live Zoom, the website has all of their previously recorded short courses that also discuss certain topics. And I wanted to make note that there's an opportunity for you guys as you're interested and or if you are interested in learning a little bit more about Washington State Growth Management Act as we prep for the comprehensive plan for 2025. I also want to thank all of you for taking time out of your week last week to stop by for the open houses as they were at the park all day long, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We will be updating the comprehensive plan project website to add the survey that we had at the open houses to garner more information and interest. So if you're chatting with your neighbors or stop random strangers to tell them about planning in Sequim, please direct them to that page, and we'd love to get some feedback. We do plan on doing more engagement throughout the summer, and more detailed specifics will be coming soon. On to the future Planning Commission agenda items. I did draft up and identify the workload over the next few months. And I did want to give you guys a high level on what's coming. So you can give us a high level on any vacation or summer plans that we may not have you. We've already discussed the agenda item today for the manufactured mobile home parks. But I do want to speak to plat extension code amendments. We are looking at a public hearing on the interim controls for Planning Commission on July 16th. Wait. And or on August 6th. And then come August 20th, we will be having a presentation on the land use element, how the land use element works within the transportation and housing and all the other 13, 14 elements that the GMA has in our comprehensive plan. We will go into September talking of a housing element. And additionally in September, we'll be looking at a code amendment for access points on plats. So that's kind of a high level of what's coming. If there's anything I have completely missed that you think should be coming in the next few months, please let me know. And we will continue to work on this. It is my goal that by early 2025, I will have an annual work program established for you guys so you know specifically what to anticipate for your participation with the commission. With that, again, I just want to thank you for showing up for the open houses last week and being a participatory member and your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. All right, we'll move on to good of the order. Does anybody have anything for good of the order? Alex?
Yes. Well, I'm sorry I missed Nick, but thanks to the City of Sequim transportation folks for putting the little yellow warning flags near the 20-mile-per-hour sign on each side of the Little Explorers Nursery School on West Sequim Bay Road. A lot of big vehicles just roar through there. And it's really good to remind people that it's a school zone. Thanks.
Thank you. Matt?
So it's actually not a school zone, but and if
okay.
it was a school zone, it would have very much more rigorous traffic controls there.
Oh, right.
However,
Wouldn't it?
I'm glad you brought it up. That and we've not only lost Nick, but Paul's up there upstairs writing a memo for the council specifically about that. So that was a major, fairly emotional agenda item on the council about 2 meetings ago. They asked staff to do a complete analysis of that section of road and really kind of the whole west end of West Sequim Bay Road, where Rutherford and where it turns into it. Paul, our new engineer and director, has taken that under his control and wings. He wrote a long email to staff about all of the parts of a comprehensive and thorough way to address that. He's approaching it legally and as an engineer would, not trying to make any hasty decisions. I was out there with him last week. We met with the owner of the child care center. He's found all kinds of problems with that road and the way it's posted and striped and whatnot already. But he keeps reminding me because council would like some immediate temporary action taken there. But if we do that, then it affects the comprehensive evaluation of it because we will have temporary measures in place and we won't get the accurate, thorough evaluation of the road. But clearly you'll see a lot of changes there. Actually, on one side of the road, it's 20 miles an hour on the exact same piece of road. On the other side is 35. So like it was put together years ago. And who knows how it got to be what it is, but it needs to be addressed. So thank you for bringing that up. And you'll be seeing a lot more of that. Matter of fact, Nick will be Paul will be giving him a summary on Monday night. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything for good of the order? Yes, Eileen.
I just wanted to say I went to the comprehensive plan workshops last week and went every day and a little disappointed the rooms weren't full of people. But there was a pretty intense group that came in the evenings that were seriously coming up with good recommendations. And I came every night, but so did those folks. And the folks that sat with us were mostly been here 3 years or less. So they were really contributing and it was important for them to contribute. So that was a big success there. My new thing that I learned last week was what a studio session was. I had no idea. So now I know it's a little wandering event and little activities, but no clue. But it went well, and I'm looking forward to more events and get more information and get it done.
Okay, thank you. I'm sad that I missed those while I was gone, but I was doing something important, but I was kind of bummed. I was looking forward to that. All right, anything else? No? Okay. And it's time in memory of Karen Mahalik for her favorite agenda item. Is there anybody who would like to make a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
All those in favor? It was Jeff. Okay. Raise your hand.
He's abstaining.
Okay. Meeting is adjourned at 6:54 PM. Thank you.